Hey everybody, it's Ashley from the Fellowship. I got Curtis here with us today. We're doing our first interview. We are bringing you different interviews to help resource you, to help you with what's next, with what God's doing in your city. And so today our first topic is the top 3 things that businessmen look for when wanting to donate, when wanting to give. A lot of times in churches we have passionate people ready to do stuff and lack resources. So Curtis here, I've known for a long time, probably 10, 15 years.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
So tell him a little bit, tell him your title, tell him what you do, what you're a part of and what you guys do.
Yeah, so I serve as Community Outreach Director for House of Raeford Farms and its nonprofit affiliate Flock. House of Raeford is a 4th-generation family-owned poultry production company based out of southeastern North Carolina, and we've got operations across the southeast. And so the owners are very charitable. They love the Lord and wanted to use the resources of the business for the kingdom as much as they could. And they realized probably 15 or 20 years ago, started really feeling God calling them to make sure they're being good stewards of the business. And what does that look like to run a big business for God's glory and for His kingdom? And so they started this journey of, generosity and making sure they're doing the right thing in all the things they do. That's the mission statement of the business, is to do the right thing in all the things they do. And so part of that was being actively involved in the lives of their employees, as well as involved in the local communities where they have operations. And so I came on board 10 years ago to help provide some structure to that and maybe expand that vision a little bit. And we created a nonprofit called Flock, which stands for Faithful Love Offering for Christ's Kingdom. And that is basically a nonprofit that seeks to come alongside churches, ministries, nonprofits in the local areas where we have operations to help them go to the next level in whatever God's called them to do. So we help those who are doing good in the areas where we have operations, help them do more. And whatever that looks like, from product donations. We have a lot of chicken with our company, so we partner with a lot of hunger relief organizations, food banks, food pantries. We also do monetary support. The 3 main focus areas that we've been drawn to primarily are hunger relief, addiction recovery, and youth development. And so we've got a lot of different things that we're a part of. Some we've started on our own, but most of them we're just coming alongside people who are already doing the great work. We don't want to try to reinvent the wheel. We want to partner with people who are already doing the work in the community. So I've helped roll that out, and now we've got people at different locations that also oversee that and steer each program at each location.
So as you can see, it makes sense why I asked him to be a part of this. I mean, basically his job is to find people that are doing something and resource them. They have tons of resources. They have this business. They have, just money or donations and things that would benefit. So Curtis, actually, I knew him. He went to Furman University. He, during college, went to Redemption. And so I kind of knew him from that. But he's been doing this, you said 10 years?
Yeah, going on 10.
About 10 years now, 9 years, yeah. So anyway, we're going to talk today just about 3 things. We wanted to give you some tips and tricks. I know we're going into 2019 and everybody's strategizing and saying, okay, God, what's next? So I thought it'd be good for us to talk about a few things that you could hear from a businessman's perspective on what they look for. So what are some of the things that you look for when trying to find somebody to give money to or actual donations?
Yeah, first and foremost, I think it's important to know what God's called you to do. I think that seems obvious, but what is the vision that God's given you? What has He called you to accomplish? So what's your mission and vision? And can you clearly communicate that? So make sure that you've got that clear in your head and it's compelling and it's from the Lord, that you are committed to it and convinced of it from God first and foremost. And as you share that, that'll be contagious and it'll be evident as you share that. So your mission, your vision, as well as the methods to how you're going to accomplish that. So what are you called to do, and then what are you doing presently, and what are you going to do to accomplish that? We want to see, the strategy, the plan. Any business has to have somewhat of a business plan.
Right.
So what are your goals? What are you going to accomplish, and how are you going to get there? I think is something that we evaluate and like to hear first and foremost before we would even go any further. And I sent a list of questions some preliminary questions that we usually send out to organizations that we're unfamiliar with. Maybe Ashley can share those with you as well. Yes, I can get those,
yeah.
So that's one main question. And then most business people are numbers people. So, the financials of, maybe you're wanting to do an event. Okay, so what's it going to cost to do the event? What are your needs there? What do you have and what do you need? And that gives clarity on maybe what God's calling us to be a part of, or whoever's going to partner with you. We can have more clarity on what the need is so that we can be clear on maybe how we could fill that need or meet that need. So knowing what you're going to do, knowing the strategy, and then what are the needs specifically. Another thing that I thought of when you asked me was having accountability and transparency. Those are two things I think is important, or I'd like to see. So who do you have around you with your church or your ministry? Who are you accountable to? Do you have a board? Do you have a group of elders or whatever it may be? And are you transparent with what you're planning to do? So even we often ask for budgetary information a lot of the time. So what was your budget last year? How was the money spent? And just so we know what we're investing in, and make sure it's a good investment based on the way things have gone in the past and the projected plan for the future.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I was thinking, and I kind of laughed when I was thinking and planning this, because one of the things I wanted to ask you are, what are some stuff that they shouldn't do? What are some oh my gosh, never say this or never do this? Or do you have anything that is just things that are automatic turnoffs, or things that okay, you see this and you don't even look at it or go any further? Or
for me personally, exaggeration and not being accurate about what you're doing,
evangelistic numbers, like when pastors
exactly
say,
we had 1,000 people, right? That when you start to get into the nuts and bolts of things, just be authentic and be honest. And so not being honest with some of those things
makes you say, no, I'm not. We're not going to do that. Probably.
There's grace for stuff like that. I'm sure I've been inaccurate a lot, but it's better to be as accurate and honest as possible, and not to exaggerate or overstate what you're hoping to accomplish as well. Just being real and authentic.
Yeah.
So inauthentic or dishonest with some of the numbers or plans is sometimes a turn off.
Yeah. That's good. So you hear that? Don't be evangelistic.
and
be true to your number.
And I'd say, not being transparent. I think that sometimes causes a red flag for people. If you're asking for people to partner with you, particularly financially, you ought to be willing to share your financial information. Right. I mean, you don't have to get in the details with everybody, but if you're going to approach somebody or one of your businessmen in your congregation or a local business, I think they can ask you about those things. Right. And if you're not willing to disclose that, or maybe you don't know, just say you don't know. But if you're not willing to disclose that, sometimes there's some questions or red flags on why not.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned something. You mentioned, businessmen in your church or nonprofit. So how would you have any advice for how to seek out different people, how to find people that have that heart of giving, and obviously this is an organization, House of Raeford, that is passionate about God's kingdom and about, making an impact and about, giving towards those things. How we have churches from everywhere, from Arizona, all up the East Coast, Ohio, Texas, California now. But how can people, no matter what city they're in, how can they kind of seek out or find some of those people? I mean, obviously we know, pray, seek the Lord, and ask for discernment in that. But any other practical advice?
Yeah, that was going to be my first thing. I've been reading an autobiography by George Mueller. If you don't know who he is, you should study his life as far as provision. But he's a 19th century, I guess he was a pastor and evangelist, but he also did a lot caring for the poor. But one thing George Mueller did, he never asked anybody for money. and he ended up helping start like over 100 schools and cared for over 10,000 orphans in his lifetime. But if you read his autobiography, it's always, okay, we've got this need, we're going to ask the Lord and keep asking the Lord, and it hasn't come through yet. Oh my God, this is getting really hard. Are you going to provide? And then the provision always came. So first and foremost, seek the Lord. I'm not saying that's never to ask. I think it's biblical to ask for resources. You have not because you ask not, right? But it's encouraging to read about his life. So first and foremost, just seek the Lord. Ask God for the right relationships. Ask God for the resources that you need to come in. So seek first the kingdom of God, his righteousness, and then all that you need will be given to you, as well as make sure that you're giving personally. Make sure your ministry is giving as well and serving, because you're going to reap what you sow, right? So if you're willing to serve maybe other ministries in your area or give to other projects in your area, that'll open up the door, not just for somebody to send you a check, but I believe that it'll open up the door for relationships and partnerships in the kingdom. And I think that's the most important part, is more than just getting a check in the mail, or for us, more than just giving a few boxes of chicken or a check to an event or a ministry. We want to know the people and build relationship and build partnership, because the kingdom's all about relationships and partnerships. And so but giving in your area wherever you are will open up the doors to those relationships, or serving will open up the doors to those relationships. So make sure you're doing that personally. Just on a practical level, there's probably businesses in your area or businessmen in your congregation.
Right.
Seek to love them and serve them, not just to get them to meet your need, but really seek to love them and serve them, and God will open up those doors. Also, there's lots of foundations that are in various areas that's all they do is they look for opportunities to support church networks. It's great to be a part of RMFI and different church networks, church planning organizations. There's, here in Greenville, we have Christian Chamber of Commerce, which is Christian business leaders. They're now wanting to focus more on bringing nonprofits and alliances as well as churches into that to connect the Christian community. So there's maybe platforms like that to get connected and just network. And like I said, it's all about relationship first and foremost. I'd rather get to know the people than just get a piece of paper that tells me about their project or their ministry. I want to get to know the people, the heart, hear the story, and let God lead out of that place.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Curtis, as I mentioned earlier, he was a part of Redemption, and we were super thankful to you guys. I know you guys partnered with us with a lot of our big events where we were able to serve the community and make a huge impact in Greenville. So we thank you guys for that, for partnering with us along that. That was a huge blessing. And so I want to tell you guys, if y'all can comment below, I want to hear from you. What are some ideas and what are some things that you've done in your city that's been helpful? Also comment and tell us what you liked about today. But also, if you're believing for something for 2019, we want to hear about that. We want to pray with you. We want to believe with you. So put that in the comments as well. And Curtis, I just wanted to thank you. Thank you for sharing with us briefly. Thank you for encouraging us. We know as 2019 is coming, we're just believing for great things in all these cities with all these pastors. So we really appreciate you sharing.
Amen. Yeah, and I would love to hear from anybody that's out there that would maybe have more questions. I'd love to have a further conversation with you and pray with you, and maybe there's some relationships that I could connect you to through whatever you're doing. Another organization I'm thought of, this Christian South Carolina Christian Foundation is one that's here in the South Carolina area, as far as places that you can go to receive resources from. But I would love to explore that more with you personally. Ashley's got my contact information.
Yes, we can share that, and tell them what cities your House of Raeford's in, just so they can know.
So we're in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Louisiana. In North Carolina, we're in Duplin County, so the southeastern part of North Carolina. In South Carolina, we're in Greenville and West Columbia. Georgia, we're in Livonia, Georgia. And Louisiana, we're in Arcadia, Louisiana. So those are our main spots where we partner, but we're open to things all over, but primarily try to focus within the regions where we have operations.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, listen, take advantage of his offer to call him and pray for him. Him and his wife, his babies, they're an amazing family. They love the Lord. He hears from Jesus. Also a smart businessman and doing awesome things in the kingdom. So take advantage of that. Thanks for joining us for our first ever interview, and I can't wait to connect with you guys soon. Bye. Thanks.